All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at the Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having an incredible week. We have our first film session of the postseason. Today, I want to dive in to that catastrophe in the second half for Houston against the Los Angeles Lakers as the Rockets drop down 0-2, succumbing to repeated double teams. We're going to dive into specifically where those double teams were coming from and some of the things that the Rockets were struggling with. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. We're on the road to 150,000 subs, so it would mean a lot to me if you guys would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button. And then if you're already subscribed, if you could like this video as well as sign up for post notifications, that helps us a lot. All right, let's talk some basketball. So we're going to get pretty much right into it. The main thing, we talked about this last night. I was really excited to dive into the film for two reasons. One, just to see the different types of double teams that the Lakers sent, and you'll see that immediately. They sent straight up double teams. They blitzed him in ball screens. Sometimes they sent the double from Şengün. Sometimes they sent the double from the wing, one pass away. Sometimes they just let KD work one-on-one against a switch just because they wanted to mix the coverage up and maybe, hey, this is the time for you to do it because you're not in rhythm. And KD had a lot of one-on-ones that he missed because they were just kind of mixed in with random double teams, right? Sometimes they sent the double team on the drive. KD would drive towards the elbow, then the double team would come. So I just thought JJ Redick had an awesome game plan and the Lakers executed their scheme. We're going to see, there's a handful of Lakers mistakes that you guys will see in their handling of the double teams, but for the most part, their execution was really solid, and they did a great job of just mixing up coverages on KD and making him feel uncomfortable. And then, as you will see, as we dig into the film, KD had some mistakes that he made in terms of just making bad reads and or ball handling errors. But a lot of these come down to spacing for the Rockets, especially the concept of keeping your shooters in positions where they can't be threats and having your non-shooting threats trying to sit in spots where they can be shooters. So let's just dig right into the film, and you guys can see firsthand exactly what I'm talking about. So this first clip, this is one of the early possessions of the second half. You're going to see a couple of examples of double teams. And the first one you're going to see right when the double team comes, it's going to come from the big man off the top. So as you can see, Ayton sends the double, right? But the first mistake here, watch Josh Okogie after he actually successfully forces the switch. So Okogie wants to get Marcus Smart off of KD, which he successfully does. But as soon as that happens, the switch has happened. You've already done your job. Now you need to get the hell out of there and get to a spot where you can be a threat. And the first thing he does is he kind of rolls right under the basket. So now when the double team comes, look, you have three dudes kind of standing in the paint-ish area, and you have one shooter out on the right wing, and the only other credible three-point shooter, Josh Okogie, is standing under the basket. He's one of only two non-KD players on the floor that can credibly knock down a three, and he's standing underneath the basket. That's poor spacing, right? So as a result, KD has no choice but to just throw the ball to the wing to Jabari Smith, and the advantage dies. At this point, Josh Okogie still hasn't really made it into scoring position on the weak side. So now they're going to run the action again, and what you're going to see in this second ball screen is a problem with where the shooters are located. So watch, Jabari Smith is our shooter. Josh Okogie is a shooter. And then we have Alperen Şengün and Amen Thompson are non-shooters. After Jabari Smith gets rid of the basketball, look at where he goes. So we're trying to run a ball screen here, but he's going to go stand on this left side of the floor next to the other guy that can shoot. And so as a result, when the blitz comes, and this time, look, instead of just sending the double comes after the ball screen, so it's effectively a blitz. KD makes the right read into the pocket. But watch how Josh Okogie, because you have your two shooters on the same side of the floor, Josh Okogie cuts. That creates a situation where you have one of your shooters in a situation where he has to cut, right? Now, LeBron actually ends up making a mistake here. He did not need to react to this cut, so they end up getting a wide open three for Jabari Smith anyway. But I want you to keep that dynamic in mind because that's going to repeatedly happen as we get through to the rest of the second half. Just two shooters on the same side, two non-shooters on the same side, that causing problems. This is just an example of one of those wasted possessions that I talked about in last night's show. No real advantage here. And Amen Thompson ends up forcing the issue into the paint. Just look at Jabari Smith Jr. He just made a three. Jabari literally just made a three. And Amen Thompson, even though there's four Lakers in the paint area, is going to force it into the paint instead of making a simple swing pass over to Jabari Smith, the hot man who just made a three. Okay. This poor decision ends up sparking a fast break the other way, And on that fast break the other way, Luke Kennard's going to hit a three. Watch Kevin Durant. Watch the way he reacts after the shot goes up. He turns and goes, pass the damn ball, because he's saying it's just a simple poor decision. So you have a wasted possession and you have a poor decision that misses a wide open shooter on the other side. This is the third different type of double team of KD, right? So we saw a double from the big, we saw a blitz, and now we're going to see the double come from a guard. So on the double team here, the double comes from LeBron. See, now that's a completely different time. They switched the ball screen to put the big onto KD instead of doubling with Marcus Smart. They let Marcus Smart leak out. Then they send the double with LeBron. But watch, look at the spacing. We have both of our credible three-point shooters standing on the same side of the floor, this full side, right? And then we have our single side with a non-shooter. So look at Marcus Smart. He has no concern with Alperen Sengun at all whatsoever over there because he's a non-shooter. And because you have a guy in the dunker spot here, because there's an example I'm going to show you guys later where the Lakers will situate two shooters on the same side, but the dunker is vacant. And because the dunker is vacant, they can go swing, wide open three for Marcus Smart. But because the dunker is not, the dunker is occupied, there's another player here in Rui Hachimura that can easily rotate to the corner. Now the advantage is gone. So you just successfully double team the ball out of KD's hands and literally gained zero advantage simply because you put both of your shooters on the full side with an occupied dunker and had a non-shooter on the single side on the weak side. That's just super easy for the Lakers to rotate out of. Just a really ugly possession there that ends in a Alperen Sengun heave at the end of the shot clock. This is where we're going to start seeing, I just mixed these clips in for you guys to see. This is where we're going to start seeing LeBron pick on the KD Sengun pairing in pick and roll. The big problem you're going to see here is KD just can't really pressure LeBron. He can't really make LeBron feel uncomfortable at all. So if LeBron is able to just, like, you get a little bit of pressure here, but LeBron's not really bothered by that. KD's not strong enough. He easily gets him off his body. And then they just get into the ball screen again. And when they get into the ball screen again, that forces KD in trail position and Sengun to show easy pocket pass, and DeAndre Ayton dunks it. Next possession, LeBron's going to see Sengun playing one side of the screen. Let me fast forward here a little bit. So LeBron, once again, no ball pressure, very comfortably is operating here. Sengun is literally pointing and saying, I'm going to be on the right side of the screen. Now, KD messes up, but once again, KD's not a ball screen defender. KD's not a guy that you're typically going to deploy on a primary pick and roll ball handler. This is not a good matchup for him. He's got to know Sengun's helping on the right side of the screen, so I need to shade LeBron's left, or his right hand, and force him to go left into where I have help. Instead, look at KD's stance. KD's stance is actually opened up to the right hand drive, and watch LeBron just easily rip. Boom. We get the reverse dunk. So LeBron's just taking advantage of a couple of really bad pick and roll defenders there. This time they do it off of more of a dribble handoff, but it's the exact same thing. Look at how easily LeBron gets downhill on KD. Easily gets downhill. Now Sengun, after he just gave up the pocket pass, is dropping back, but he's not a good like drop type of defender vertically, and Ayton just easily dunks on him over the top. So that was how LeBron kind of took advantage of the pick and roll on the other end of the floor. This time, watch the Lakers just to mix up coverages, just go with the switch. Okay, ball screen, switch. So again, they could have keep double teaming, but they want to mix coverages up. They want to make KD feel off balance. Now KD is going to go one-on-one, but he's out of rhythm because he hasn't had the basketball with an opportunity to score much. And we're 5 minutes into the second half at this point, and he's going to miss a pull-up three over KD because he's not in good rhythm right now. This is the next reaction to the ball screen attack. We get a switch, and look at Alperen Sengun. Please help me. And so he gets the double team. But I want you to watch DeAndre. Watch the spacing. So the Lakers have textbook perfect spacing for handling the double team here. Watch how when the double comes, you have all four of your scoring positions occupied. But watch Ayton. Ayton sees that Okogie is glued to Luke Kennard, and Amen Thompson is playing up on Marcus Smart. So Ayton knows that this is the 2-on-1. He knows this is the read that LeBron has to make. And by clearing to the opposite dunker, he drags Jabari Smith into the lane. Look at that right foot. Taking all that weight is on his left foot, pushing into the lane. And LeBron throws a beautiful rifle skip pass to Rui Hachimura in the corner. Really nice work spacing the floor. And also, that's just another thing with LeBron. LeBron's just got the strength and the ability to just rifle those cross-court passes. Now, the Lakers switch again and don't double KD. And watch, because they went with the same coverage 2 times in a row, KD starts to feel a little more comfortable, a little more in rhythm. He drives right at Ayton and he draws a foul. Don't worry, they're going to get right back to the double teams here pretty soon. Here's another example of one of those wasted possessions. Just like, okay, like you're going to force a tough mid-range pull-up in transition, Jabari Smith. Like, that's just not a good shot. You're doing the Lakers a huge favor there. Today's show is brought to you by presenting sponsor Hard Rock Bet, Florida's sportsbook. It's our favorite time of year on Hoops Tonight, the NBA playoffs, where the lights are brighter, the pressure is higher, and every possession can change a series. And on Hard Rock Bet, every night is your shot to score a major bucket. With win-or-go-home energy on the hardwood, I love building same-game parlays. You might like the hot hand to drop 30, the big man to control the glass with a double-double, and the point guard to dish out 5 assists. However you draw it up, Hard Rock Bet gives you tons of ways to stack your picks into a same-game parlay built for the playoffs. If you're ever late to tip-off, don't worry. Hard Rock Bet lets you live bet all game long from the first bucket to the final buzzer. Sign up today and double your winnings on your first 10 bets. Maximum $50. That's right. Double your winnings on your first 10 bets. So if you would have won $100 on your bet, now it's $200. The welcome offer is just the tip. Hard Rock Bet has new promos daily. So open up the app right now to see what promo you've got today. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today, and let's get the party started. One of the things I talked about is this. One of the differences between this game and what happened in the first Houston game, if you guys remember, is the double teams of KD were coming just from the top of the key up with the live dribble over and over again. In this game, to the Rockets' credit, that through the lessons they learned over the tail end of the season, they did get KD into a lot of off-ball action to try to get his double teams in different spots on the floor. KD just in some cases didn't handle it well, and then obviously we had some spacing concerns. But watch as KD comes off of this. Look at all the Rockets players in the paint. So I've got Jason Tate cutting. I've got Amen Thompson cutting, and then one of my 2 credible 3-point shooters on the floor is cutting into the lane. Like, you're just making yourself easy to guard here. Now, KD screws up because he goes up against a triple team, and he still has a good read. Like, Luke Kennard doesn't even really need to be in there, and Reed Shepherd's wide open. So this is like literally everyone's fault. Like, KD for not seeing that the Lakers botched this and Reed Shepherd is wide open. But also, you can't all be cutting when you have 2 shooters on the floor. You got to have both of those guys in position where they're creating more space. This ends up turning into a turnover for the Lakers going the other way. Here's an example of good spacing. So the Lakers blitz a ball screen. Look at where everybody is. I've got Şengün in the short roll. I've got one of my credible shooting threats in the left corner. I've got one of my credible shooting threats in the right corner. And I've got my non-shooting threat cutting into the dunker spot. And Şengün actually makes a bad read here. As you can see, Reed Shepherd is wide open because when you have appropriate spacing, guys are going to be wide open. Şengün just happens to rip right through Marcus Smart and get a layup. Credit to him. But again, when you have the spacing right, you're going to get easy reads. And like, that's one of those things too, if you're Şengün, where it's so important that you trust Reed Shepherd there because he ended up missing the looks that he did get in this game. If he gets a few more looks, maybe he can build some rhythm and hit a big 3 for you, like that one off the left wing that he missed later in the game. Here's another switch and double. So they're gonna switch the ball screen first. Jackson gets on the ball. Double comes off Reed Shepherd. Okay. Once again, some nonsensical spacing. I've got both of my shooters on one side of the floor, and then I've got both of my non-shooters. I've got a non-shooter in the left corner, and I've got Şengün in the middle of the floor. I don't understand doing it this way. I don't understand operating in a sense where Jake LaRavia now just straight up does not have to guard Jason Tate. The only reason this works is Vando unnecessarily overhelps. The Lakers, this is a mistake. If Laravia is on Şengün and Vando is guarding Tari Eason, you can play this into the non-shooter getting a shot in the left corner. The Lakers botch this and Tari Eason gets a good look, but it's an example of that poor spacing. There's just no reason in the world for you to have your two non-shooters on one side of the floor and your two shooters on the same side of the floor. I'm mixing in examples of the Lakers getting double teams for LeBron to just demonstrate the difference in how they execute here. LeBron's going to go to the post here on the first possession of the fourth quarter and watch the way they set up their spacing. Aaron Holiday is face guarding Luke Kennard. Why? Because Luke Kennard's been frying the Rockets for 2 games, right? Rui Hachimura is one of the best percentage three-point shooters on the team, and Amen Thompson is going to be glued on him. So they take both of those guys and they clear them above the break. And so your two best shooters clear above the break. You create a very simple 3-on-3 dynamic here in the middle of the floor. Watch Jackson Hayes' eyes as soon as KD goes. KD goes, Jackson immediately cuts. LeBron's on top of it the whole time, throws the lob right to Jackson, gets the and one. They have their spacing set up perfectly. They've got 2 non-shooters, but they have them in 2 distant positions where it creates a clear 2-on-1. If Şengün doesn't help, Jackson gets a dunk. If Şengün meets Jackson earlier, like if Şengün reads this play and meets Jackson up here, Jackson just has the easy drop off to Jared Vanderbilt for the dunk because they clear the space with the 2 shooters, and LeBron is just so anticipatory of what's happening, and Jackson is in the right spot immediately when the double comes. Here's an example of one of the late double teams that the Lakers used. So they switch the ball screen first. We get our ball screen. We get our switch. Watch Vando. Vando's waiting. Instead of sending the double team, he's waiting for KD to drive. KD drives, then he sends the double and gets an awesome contest on the pull-up jumper. That was one of the coverages the Lakers mixed in. So as you can see, sometimes they're blitzing, sometimes they're sending the double before the ball screen, sometimes they're doubling off of a shooter instead of off the big, and sometimes they're sending the double when he gets into the lane. And then also occasionally just allowing him to work one-on-one to try to keep his rhythm off balance. We actually get some good spacing here. Şengün once again is going to force it, but you're going to see the example of the open reads that take place. So KD gets the ball, draws the double. Look at how the spacing is set up. We have our one shooter in the right corner. We have our other shooter on the opposite side. As a result, on the run, you can see the spacing start to take shape, right? I've got a shooting kick out read to the left, a shooting kick out read to the right. This is the open man. This is the read that Şengün misses. Rui's hesitant to step up because of the fact that you've got Amen Thompson cutting into that dunker spot. Şengün just forces it in and it happens to get an offensive rebound, but Tari Eason is wide open on that entire possession, literally because they had the appropriate spacing. Here's another example of good spacing. Double comes off of the guard. Look, shooter in the corner, high-low with our 2 dunkers. Get the ball to Okogie. Look, everyone's in tough. Now, everyone is literally in a position now where they have to make a decision. LeBron has to make a decision to help or not off of Jabari. Luke has to make a decision to help or not. And Marcus has to make a decision to help or not. Marcus, you can literally see him go, I don't want to help. See that backward step? He doesn't want to help because of Amen Thompson in the dunker. And so Josh Okogie ends up getting an easy layup. Good spacing, just easier to operate. Here's a switch. One of the things I thought was fascinating, the 3 guys they allowed to work against KD in switches on occasion were Ayton and then your 2 best defenders, Marcus Smart and LeBron James. Marcus Smart ends up getting a switch onto KD here. No double team. KD just ends up dribbling it off his foot. And by the way, KD really struggled to dribble against Marcus Smart all game in this one. But again, they're keeping him off balance. Good spacing. We're going to get a Tari Eason layup. Handoff. Double's going to come from Rui. Look at our spacing. Shooter left corner. Shooter right corner. We're going to set up our high-low. There's our high-low. See how the spacing is good? This forces the spacing to work in a way that Jabari Smith can rack the closeout. He racks the closeout, draws help, hits Amen Thompson. Look at, you have a shooter in the left corner because you had your spacing right. Pitch it out to him, draws another closeout, and he beats the closeout with a driving layup. Again, that was a very good defensive possession from the Lakers where they rotated well, but because you had your spacing set up properly, you were able to get into some advantage situations that somebody could capitalize on. This one, terrible spacing. Watch. Here comes the double. Watch the Rockets. I've got my two credible shooters. Actually, I have three credible shooters on the floor right now because I've got Tari Eason, I've got Jabari Smith, and I've got Josh Okogie on the floor. But look at where they all go. KD's got the ball. I've got two shooters that are standing 10 feet away from each other on the left side, and I've got one of my shooters standing right next to Amen Thompson. And the read from Tari Eason is to cut through. Now I've got all three of my Rockets players standing in the same spot. This forces KD to pivot. Watch how KD, when he first gets the double team, he's looking for a passing read right now, but he straight up does not have one. No one is open. There's no pass that he can make at this point. So he has to pivot and turn to try to create more time. When he pivots and turns, he exposes the basketball there on his right hip. Marcus Smart takes it away from him. So again, KD's got to handle the ball better, but that one's on the team as much as it's on KD because you didn't have a single release valve for him when the double team came. Here's one of those single coverage opportunities against LeBron. Like, they didn't send the double team on this one because they liked the matchup, and KD hadn't had the opportunity to go one-on-one in a while. He's a little bit out of rhythm, forces the pull-up corner three and misses it. Here's an example of some good Lakers spacing. You're going to see a double team of LeBron, and watch the way they have the floor set up. He gets the switch on Şengün. The double team comes, but look at how the Lakers are set up. They've got shooter, credible, reasonably credible shooter, right? And then you've got Ayton in the dunker. And so it creates a very simple passing read, the 2-on-1s here in the corner, and he rifles it to LaRavia. He just happens to airmail it, but good spacing, decent shot. That was the one time that the Rockets sent a double team at the Lakers in the second half, at LeBron in the second half, and they didn't score. Here's a double team of Şengün and a misread. So Şengün's at the elbow. Here comes the double team. Look at Tari Eason's wide open, but instead of finding that read to Tari Eason, Şengün just ends up throwing the ball to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant then ends up forcing it to Tari Eason, but it waits too long and the window is closed. Like, look at how where Luke Kennard is right now. At the time Şengün had the ball, Kennard's got his back turned to the corner. If Şengün throws it here, LeBron's going to have to close out. You have an extra pass to Jabari Smith Jr. You're getting a wide open three. But because he passes it out, Luke Kennard is able to recover all the way. And by the time KD identifies it, Kennard's able to get there, get a hand on it. LeBron got a hand on it first, but then Kennard gets a hand on it. They force the turnover. Here's an open three out of good spacing. Look at how they have the floor set up. See how instead of keeping Eason on the strong side next to a shooter, they clear him out to the other side. Now we have our classic spacing we talked about. Left corner shooter, right corner shooter, high-low. KD draws the double. When he clears out, Tari Eason is wide open. And what's funny too is like KD, and this is the processing stuff with KD. It's like KD actually makes the wrong read here and throws it right to Şengün. Şengün happens to make the right read for him. But again, that's a wide open shooter generated because you had your spacing set up properly. Now, Tari Eason just made a three. Do you guys remember the play at the start of the second half where Jabari Smith got a really good look in the left corner? And instead of finding Jabari Smith again on the right wing, he forces the drive and turns it over, or has the bad miss. Exact same dynamic here, except for Tari Eason actually did make his. So Tari Eason made his and is in rhythm. Watch what Amen Thompson does. Tari Eason's open. The spacing is perfect. High-low, shooter right corner, shooter left corner. You just ran this play, and you just got an open three for that guy, and he just made it. Watch Amen Thompson try to force it through traffic. And this should have been a turnover. Look at Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard got a hand on it. Houston gets extremely lucky that it finds its way through to Şengün and he gets a dunk. But that is another poor decision from Amen Thompson. This is where that like collective basketball IQ problem really starts to rise to the surface. Now, you just ran correct spacing 2 times in a row and got a dunk and a 3 out of it, even though the dunk should have been another 3. What the hell is this? Now Amen Thompson goes and stands in the corner. Tari Eason, the guy who just made a 3, is now in the dunker. KD drives. Look at Jackson Hayes. Who's he guarding? Nobody. He's leaving Amen Thompson wide open. That forces KD to pick up his dribble. Now he's screwed, and he ends up throwing it and turning it over. Again, KD's got to take better care of the basketball. KD deserves some blame for that. But this is brain-dead basketball. When you are running with correct spacing and getting good looks, and then on a key possession where it's a 5-point game with a minute left, if you literally just swap Tari Eason and Amen Thompson there and Tari Eason hits a 3, it's a 2-point game with a minute left. Now you're putting the pressure on the Lakers to score, and if they don't, KD's got a chance to go down and tie the game. That's brain-dead basketball. Last clip, just because I wanted to demonstrate for you guys again how effective the Lakers were beating double teams as a counterpoint. Watch this. Now, the Lakers run a cleared side ball screen with LeBron and Jackson Hayes. Now, this is where I wanted to talk about the difference between having the dunker occupied for an overloaded side versus a non-occupied dunker. So the Lakers have 2 shooters on the same side, which is that dynamic we were talking about that Houston was doing incorrectly. The difference is, in that situation, they were using a dunker here as well and a dunker over here. So they were putting themselves in a situation where one guy could guard both of these spots effectively. And so even if the ball did move over here to the right wing, they could easily rotate off of this dunker to get to the corner. The Lakers, because they're working with non-occupied dunker spots, they are able to overload the side. So as LeBron comes off and draws the blitz, look at how the spacing sets up. Jackson is the clear release valve on the short roll. You're not leaving Luke Kennard, so Tari Eason's kind of glued up to him on the wing. So here's our 3-on-2. But because the dunker is not occupied, they can easily go swing to the corner. Wide open 3 for Marcus Smart. One of the things here too, like this is where like Kevin Durant needs to just do a better job of closing out to the passing lane here and try to bait some like indecision there, but that's like a little nitpicky thing. This is an example of how the spacing can work. By the way, like we did see a lineup for the Rockets where they had Tari, Josh Okogie, and Jabari Smith all out there at the same time. And in that group, they can probably get away with some of this like overload spacing stuff where you just basically have Şengün set the ball screen and you have your 3 shooters over there, and maybe that could work. But it's when you have Amen Thompson out there in particular, you've got to have your shooters split onto the opposite corners so that you have a more clean spacing. So again, you guys can pretty clearly see from the clips that I showed, like when the Rockets had their shooters in opposite corners and ran high-low spacing, they pretty much got a good look every single time. But they just wasted so many possessions with poor shot attempts in transition when there was no real advantage, or poor spacing where you have your shooters loaded up on the same side and your non-shooters loaded up on the same side. And then just too many opportunities there in the middle of the floor where either Amen Thompson or Alperen Şengün just made poor reads. So again, like the poor reads, that's part of just what's going to be the case when you have low IQ basketball players on the floor. But by creating the better spacing, you can at least make it more likely than not that something good will happen. Because as we saw, even in some of those situations where they made the wrong read, Şengün was just able to power his way around the rim for easy stuff because they had their spacing set up appropriately and he wasn't getting swarmed to the extent that he was missing. So that's the key. Everyone deserves blame. KD's got to take way better care of the basketball. There's way too many ball handling mistakes in there. You've got to, Ime Udoka's got to emphasize the way they set up their spacing in these double teams. That is a clear issue. And then 3, Amen Thompson and Alperen Sengun just have to make better decisions when they get into the middle of the floor. Lastly, I do think that one of the break glass in case of emergency options for Udoka is just to bench Amen Thompson and to go with Josh Okogie, Jabari Smith, and Tari Eason, your 3 most credible shooters, and see if you can't create more opportunities that way. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting us and supporting the show. The plan for tonight, I think we're still going to end up going live, but I'll end up tweeting out the schedule after I have a chat with Jackson here in a minute, and we'll see you guys then.